So I'm having a chat with James. Rolo Tomassi, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad here at 2,000 Trees.
It's a pleasure to be back in a lovely hot field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Been here long, looking forward to later.
We got here like about 2 hours ago, and yeah, very much looking forward to playing. Like, the mood is good, everyone feels like they're in a good mood. Like,
yeah, I mean the weather's nice, so that's
it's definitely
probably why.
contributing, yeah.
And this today ends kind of a nice little run you've been doing of some dates across Europe.
Yeah, so we've been on tour for the last like 2.5 weeks maybe, and it's been a blast. Yeah, first time out touring in like mainland Europe for the last several years for obvious reasons. So yeah, just really happy to be back at it. It's been like a really nice familiar feeling, but also some nice, new memories and unique experiences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've got a different sort of EP on the way, which has kind of different edits and mixes of your latest single, Closer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we felt that that was a song that would kind of lend itself to being reinterpreted, I suppose, and took the opportunity to reach out to a few different producers, different artists, to kind of get their take on it. Yeah, that's kind of it, really. Like, I mean, I'd love to say something more about it, but yeah, we've had a bunch of remixes done. The most recent one came out a couple of days ago. It was a Canadian producer called Atlas, who's done a really, really cool version of the track. All three that we've had done sound really, really different.
Yeah.
So it's nice making something and then have other people kind of deconstruct it and make something new from it. I think that's like it's a really cool and positive thing to be able to do that, and for each of them to kind of stand up on their own as being like a cool thing.
Yeah, for sure. And the track's off your latest record, which came out earlier this year. Tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, so we released an album in February. It's called When Myth Becomes Memory. And it was, a real blessing to have something like that to work on during the lockdown, the pandemic. It was a record we were always going to write anyway. Like, we'd kind of naturally reached a point where we needed to make a new record anyway. So the timing of it worked in our favour, and having that sort of really focused period of time where we could just write music was a good thing to get us through the last few years. I feel like it's quite a natural progression from the record that came before it, and something that has been a real joy to play live, and seems to be going down well with everyone we're playing it with so far. Yeah,
good. And what was it like writing and recording in such different circumstances compared to when you've written and recorded prior to the pandemic?
I mean, different, I think, is the word that you used that I would use as well. It didn't change things too dramatically. Like, the actual recording experience was pretty regular, other than either having to record remotely. I suppose that was the one big change. In a perfect world, she'd have been coming back to the UK, but she lives in the US, and the travel restrictions at that point dictated that she had to stay there. But given the way that we write, which is quite separate from her anyway, it didn't really change the writing process too much. It just meant that we had to spend a lot more time like making better quality demos, and there was a lot of back and forth over video calls and that sort of thing. But if anything, it made us sort of work with even more of a fine-tooth comb than we usually would, and focus in on specific details a lot more. And I think I can hear it on the record. I mean, I hope other people can too.
Yeah, good. And people will want to see you live, and if they haven't had a chance to over the last few months, where can they see you kind of after today? What's the plan? So
the plan after this, we are going to the US in September, so people that live there can see us there. If people are on holiday there, they can come and see us there as well. And I mean, I think I can say this because we're announcing it on Monday. We're going to be doing our biggest ever UK headline show next year in February. We're playing the Electric Ballroom. The tickets for that go on sale Friday next week, whatever that date is. I don't know if you've got a quicker mind than I have for that.
No, not at all.
Maybe like the 15th of
Sounds
this
about
month.
right.
It's a week from today. Whatever the date is today, it's a week from today.
Add 7 to it.
Okay, so there you go.
I don't know what it is, though.
So that's really exciting for us to be making a step up and like doing, like I said, our biggest ever show. That's going to be happening in February. It's a UK headline exclusive for next year. So if you want to come and see us and you're living in, well, the UK, I should say, the Electric Ballroom in February of 2023.
What else do you kind of have planned for next year then? Are you hoping to be touring some more? Is it support slots possibly on the
I think
on
we'll
the
kind of
cards?
look going back to the US and doing the West Coast. We're just doing the East Coast this time round. And hopefully like another run of festivals in the summer. Some stuff in mainland Europe again. And that'll be us. Like, yeah, the show we're doing in February is part of like a wider European tour. There's going to be shows in Germany, Belgium, Hungary, Denmark, some other countries that I'm kind of forgetting off the top of my head, but it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, where haven't you been to before? Because you've been around for a while and you've toured a lot of places, but where haven't you been that you want to get to?
In terms of somewhere that I'd really like to go to, like we were talking earlier about this, in South America is somewhere that I'd really like to visit. Like, I think it would be definitely a bucket list ticked off to go to places like Mexico, Brazil. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep working at it and see what we can make happen.
Yeah, good. And I'd like to ask about studio time for you guys. So once you've got your demos kind of in place and you kind of know what you're doing, you step foot into the studio knowing that you're going to produce some singles, a record, an EP, or whatever. How does it work from demo through to actually having that finished product?
I mean, we've been doing it for quite a while, and I think we're quite sort of studious when we're in the studio, and we kind of work quite pragmatically just to kind of get through it. There'll always be like quite a tight structure to everything that we're doing, but I think this time round we had a little bit more time than we normally would have done, which definitely allowed for a bit of experimentation. So we kind of have like quite a rigid framework of how something is going to be, but with also a little bit of space on top to experiment. I suppose that's quite an obtuse way of answering it, but yeah, I think everyone's just kind of like, you know, we go in and we get the job done, and everyone has a good time, and we try and be as creative as possible whilst also making sure that we get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the experimenting side of things, what have you tried before and you've just turned around and gone, that really does not work for us?
That's a really good question, actually, and maybe something that I don't even definitely have an answer to. I mean, like, we did a lot of stuff with sort of prepared pianos this time round. Like, we've kind of been putting felt and other things into a piano and messing around with the strings a lot, and there's like a lot of hitting it with various different sort of items that were in the studio, and some of that got taken off because it wasn't quite to everyone's tastes, but I thought it sounded good. So
maybe next time.
Yeah.
So, and with the pandemic, you must have written loads more than kind of what was on this record. What do you do with it now? Do you consider it for the next record, or do you just bin it off?
You would think that we're so sort of we'd never written like that before. We write what's on the record is what was written for the record. Okay. There was nothing that was saved, or there was no fat to trim. It was just I think it takes us so long to kind of write what we do write that it's not like we're writing 20 songs for a 10-song album or whatever. It's like we wrote 10 songs and they're all there, and whenever we start something new we have to start from scratch. It's an incredibly efficient way of working. It's just zero waste, kind of. Good,
excellent. Well, James, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much for having me. All right,
thanks very much.
Cheers.